Hello today everyone, this is Eli, and today I'm going to do something a little different. It's going to be called Tales from the Truck. I'm going to tell you one of the many stories that I have. I might do this every now and then, just as a little story time. So stay tuned, hopefully you'll enjoy this story. So my first story that I'll tell you is literally the first story of my trucking career, at least being out on the truck by myself. I have to preface this whole story with an ode to my trainers. My trainer in school, the one and only Mr. Alan Guyton, really set me up to do well in this industry. Granted, I really pushed myself to learn a lot of extra knowledge and really solidify some things. I was first in my class. I graduated with a perfect score on my field test, which apparently at the time had only been done one other time in 25 years. I got a perfect score on my coupling, my pre-trip, perfect attendance, all that stuff. That might be a whole other story in itself, but needless to say, he was willing to take me under his wing and really make sure that I got all the information that I wanted. He took a lot of extra time and tried to let all of us students know kind of what we would be expecting out on the road. But nobody can really tell you. Then I got into my training truck with a company called Gainey. They were out of Austell, Georgia was my yard that I was out of, and then they were out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. That was their home base. And my trainer there, Terry, she went by Tyra, love her, still friends with her, and she was an amazing driver. I mean, she knew the trucks inside and out. She'd been a driver for a long time. She and I got on fabulously. It was a great training time. And I guess I was in training with her for, I think it was about a month, however long it took. You have to have so many miles on the truck, so many hours. So I got my time and I was given my first truck. And I had to pick up a load out of Orangeburg, South Carolina. I believe I was hauling small tractors at the time. And I got up into what I call the Bermuda Triangle of North Carolina. It is my personal hellhole. As I'm driving through there, that is Interstate 26, heading north. I was well above Asheville. I was in the Waynesville area. I was actually just past Waynesville. And it was a 3-lane interstate. I'm in the middle lane. There's a truck to my right. There's also a truck up ahead of me, I don't know, maybe 4 truck lengths or so. I was by no means, super close up. We weren't going super fast either. The speed limit there is 55, which is ridiculous. That could be a whole story. That's just part of the attraction of Waynesville. And I noticed that there are traffic barrels up ahead because the left lane is going to be shutting down for some construction. And as I see that, I look in my West Coast mirror here, my side mirror, and there's a car zooming up alongside of me. And I'm looking ahead going, does he not see the barrels? And I thought, surely he will put on some brakes and get back in behind me because I don't have anywhere to go. There's a truck beside me, and obviously there's a truck in front of me, so I don't know where he thinks he's going to go going that fast. I did start backing it off a little bit, but by that time, this guy's already, the barrels are there. So he proceeds to take his car, zoom up a little past me, and he jerks the wheel to get in between me and the truck that's in front of me. But he jerks the wheel so hard that he goes spinning, literally spinning, off to the side. I guess the truck to the right of me had seen what had happened, and he had started backing down. Thankfully he did, because this guy was spinning so much that he spun back around and hit me up in the front right fender. And and proceeded to lodge the car under my truck. Now, I'm a little freaked out at this point because I've never been in a wreck. Certainly I didn't cause this wreck, but here's a car that I can't even see. Like, I'm trying to look up and I can barely see him. Now, before I had become a truck driver, I had done a very temporary stint becoming a paramedic. And so my training there, yeah, that's a whole other story too. My training there, as soon as I kind of went, okay, my truck is upright, I'm still in my lane, like I had managed to really keep a hold of this whole rig. I get my camera now. This was in the days where we didn't have cell phones with cameras. We had to do it old school, so I would carry several throwaway cameras. Anybody remember those? So I did that specifically for if there was ever an incident, you could take pictures and send that into the company for insurance. So I get my camera and I jump out of the truck and I go around and to check on the people. And it's two people. It's a young man and his mother. The mother's in the passenger seat. I checked on her. Her heart was, she was having a little chest pains, but overall she was okay. And she was just having chest pains from the adrenaline. So I checked on her. I was really not happy with him at all. And he, I say unfortunately, was okay. And I told him to get the hell out of the car. And I guess the truck driver had, the one that had been beside me, had called 911. So cops do start showing up pretty quickly after this. Turns out this was a young guy. He was, I think, 18, 19. And this was a rental car. They did not have insurance on the rental car. He was not supposed to be driving. The car was in her name, and of course, I think you have to be 21 to drive a rental car, and he was not. So he was not supposed to be driving. So I don't know, in that case, from that part of this whole story, which of them got in trouble. If she did for allowing him to drive, if he did, I'm sure he did anyway, because of the accident that he had just caused because of his stupid, dumbass driving. And once the cops got all of their paperwork done, I was basically free to go. And usually they will want to drug test you and give the truck driver a really hard time, but cop just said, it's obvious what happened. We had a witness, the guy beside me saw this whole thing happen, and he said, you actually did a really good job of keeping the truck on the road the way this guy hit you, because he lodged himself right underneath my steer tire, which is my very front right tire. And he said, you could have easily been pushed off the road, and I wasn't. So after dealing with my company and making sure that I had pictures of everything, I took the truck down to the next exit. And I guess that was just to finalize some things with the company. The truck, I ended up driving this truck for, I'm going to say another 2 days or so, because the truck could run. I was missing a light up front, but it could run, so I didn't need to be repowered, which if you're not a driver, that just means that they send another truck to come get the load and keep going with it, and I didn't need that. So I kept on with the truck, which in itself is a little embarrassing. If your truck gets damage to it, everybody's going to think that you did it. Like, they're not just going to go, oh, somebody else must have hit them. No. So I didn't like that, and especially being a new driver, here I am. This would have been my second day on the road. This is the second day, my introduction to being a solo driver. And my company finally gets me a load that takes me back to the yard so that they could put the truck in the shop and put a new front end on it. So in the meantime, go over to Louisiana, there had been a driver of ours that apparently got arrested with drugs. Not a good look. So I had to get all of my belongings, which in these trucks, you might as well be moving house. I had a dog with me. I had my little Chinese Crested at the time. He was such a good little trucking dog. You have to get all of your legal stuff, your medical card, and of course, obviously, your wallet. And then my bedding I have to take everything. I basically have to move out of the truck that I'm in, other than stuff that I literally didn't need, just was not going to need anytime soon. I had to take it all. So they had a driver there at our yard in Atlanta. It was Austell, but we'll just say Atlanta from here on out, who was hauling a load out to Texas. So I had to ride with him to Louisiana to go pick up this guy's rig that had gotten arrested. And this guy was hauling a load of paint. So he didn't have any room. There's not a ton of room. There's certainly enough room for me and Bean and all my stuff in my truck. But, you know, when you have a whole other driver's worth of stuff, it's too much. So I ended up having to put my bedding and all of my things, my clothing, my toiletry bag, everything that I carried with me in the trailer. Luckily, it was not a sealed trailer, so there was a lot of room back there, so I had to put it back there. We'll fast forward to that. Just remember, hauling paint. So I get in the truck with this driver who was very kind. He was very nice, but it was a little odd because he had candy everywhere. And I mean, you couldn't sit in the passenger seat. Everywhere. I don't know if he had a medical issue. I can't remember. Everywhere. So he drives out, and at some point I took over and drove so that we could get there faster. We acted more like a team truck. So when he was out of hours, I got up and drove. I had been trying to lie down. He didn't mind me lying in his bunk since the top bunk was not made up, and he was clean. I mean, he was a clean guy. I didn't have any real immediate problem with it. And I did put a blanket down over his blanket and over his pillows so that I was respectful to him too. And didn't really sleep because I'm lying on a whole bunch of candy. I'm telling you, when I tell you there was candy all over this truck, wherever you walk, candy. Wherever you sit, candy. Like hard little candies everywhere. Even in the bed. So I may have napped, I may have dozed off, but I really didn't get any sleep. So at some point we swap. I drive for a little ways, and we get to Louisiana. This truck was at a tow yard. It was a lovely Kenworth T2000. It was a beautiful truck, and oddly enough, that was the truck that for some reason at that time, this is 20 some odd years ago, that was the truck that I just thought was a beautiful truck at the time. It was just kind of cool looking. It had the round headlights. It looked to me very modern. Beautiful 10-speed truck, really nice. But all the driver's stuff is in the truck. So again, here we are. I can't put my stuff in the truck yet because there's so much. So the guy that I rode out with, we noticed on the way in that there had been it was a gas station, but it had a pretty large parking lot and there was a dumpster. So we take both rigs to this gas station. And I certainly wasn't going to throw away anything of value, but there was a lot of trash. This driver was not a clean driver. When you imagine a dirty truck driver, this guy nailed it. So I called my company and I told them, what I'm finding and that, there's a lot of trash. Do I have your permission to throw away trash? And I said, I will bag up his belongings to bring to our yard because the load that I now had was going to Arizona and I was going to stop in Texas at our yard and drop his stuff off. So if he got out of jail, he could come get it. The guy was going to be fired, so I don't know if he even came to the yard. They may have just fired him and he never got anything. So I pull this truck up by this big dumpster, and the other driver gets out, and I'm handing stuff to him, stuff that's clearly trash. So in a T2000, as with most of these trucks, they have these cabinets, and this one had cabinets coming down. I'll show you. So cabinets coming down, I have a refrigerator But imagine under that refrigerator an empty hole. And I start pulling out clothing that was not soft. It didn't move well. So I tell the driver, this other guy, I said, this guy must have gotten under the trailer. Maybe he had an airline issue or a brake issue or, I don't know, tire issue. It looks like he's rolled in mud. I mean, I'm serious. Like, it is, this clothing, I pick it up and it looks like it has rigor mortis. It's not moving. And at one point there's socks, there's a shirt, there's a pair of shorts. And at one point the shirt kind of falls open away from the shorts. And that's when I realized this guy did not get in mud. Dude shit himself. Okay, so these clothings, these items, had obviously been in here long enough that said shit had crustified and hardened all the clothes. He had used his socks, the shirt. I don't even recall if there was underwear. I'm going to put that out of my memory right now. To clean up this shit apocalypse he has had happen. But because the clothes were smashed down and shoved under that cabinet, there was still an area that hadn't really been exposed to air. So it was still soft-ish. And at that point, I'm like, I told the guy, I'm like, he shit himself. He shit himself. And I'm like, just move. And I throw the clothes out toward, I don't know if they even made them in the dumpster. Maybe the guy was brave and picked them up and threw them in the dumpster. So there was that part. I finally get the truck kind of cleaned up. The driver that I was with had some cleaning supplies that I had in my truck but I hadn't brought. So I was able to wipe down the truck, kind of get it clean enough. And I boxed up what seemed valuable. Those clothes were not part of that box. But his CB radio and a couple other things that were clearly, you know, his. And then I go to get my stuff out of this other driver's trailer. Remember, I said he was hauling paint. Have you ever been in a room that's freshly painted and the fumes are strong? Well, we open up the trailer and I go to get my bedding. This is the stuff I've got to sleep on. But, you know, your sheets, my comforter, pillows, and they all reek of paint. And I mean reek of paint. Now, this is the middle of summer. I think I started driving, or I got out of my training. It would have been early summer, so it was hot. And I really wanted to drive with the air conditioning on, but because the paint fumes were so bad, having to put my stuff now in the truck with me, I had to drive with the windows down because I used to get migraines really bad, and that was spurring on a migraine. So, okay, I get in the truck, I get going down the road, say bye to the other driver, he goes on, does his thing, and one of the worst thunderstorms that I've ever been in, definitely one of the worst, pops up. Now, when you're in training and in your school, you don't get to design your weather. I had driven in snow and ice, oddly, when I had my CDL permit. Again, another story. But driving in a heavy rain that you cannot see the road in front of you is a little daunting when you're a first-time driver. Now I don't care. I just keep driving. But it was a little daunting. So I called my friend. So I had a headset. Now I have this headset, but I had one of the over-the-ears, you know, with the... And I call my friend, and at this point, I have kind of lost it. I am crying. I won't recreate that because I'm a really ugly crier, but like it's the type of crying where you can't really understand what someone's saying. So I'm trying to relay this whole experience. Granted, this whole experience from the time that guy hit me to the time I was right there was probably, well, it's definitely less than a week, probably 4 days. Okay. Again, my first trip out as a truck driver. And I can hear her asking, should you be driving? Maybe you should pull over. And I said, I can't. I'm explaining to her, I said, I've got to get to the yard on time. I've got a schedule to meet. And, you know, when you're a first-time driver, you do everything you can to impress your company because you want to prove yourself, especially as a woman, that you can do the job. And I was not about to let anybody down. I was going to do that damn job. Okay? So, and I knew that the load had to be, it was actually going to California. I said it was going to Arizona. That's where I ended up stopping. It was going to California. And at this point, because of the delay from the other driver getting arrested and then me having to come get the truck and then head out, now the load was a little behind schedule, and especially because I had to stop in Texas at our yard to drop off his stuff. So I just kept crying, and I just thought, wow, this is what trucking's like. This is my introduction. Is this what the rest of my career is going to be like? Is this how all of it's going to go every week, every load? It was a mess. So long story short, I did drop his stuff off and had taken pictures with, again, my little throwaway camera. And I had given that camera over to the yard too because I wanted to show them what I had thrown away. In a nutshell, the shit-piled clothes were one of them, so that they believed me, so that there was no, oh, what did she do with my clothing? So I turned in his stuff, took off down the road. So I'm staying in contact with my company because, again, the load is now running behind. They were going to repower me. They were going to send out a team to get the trailer so that they could keep running it continuously on into California, which I'm glad because I hate going to California anyway. It's a cesspool, not friendly to truckers or basically anybody at all. So I got to Arizona just about a quarter of the way into Arizona, and they had me get to a truck stop there, and a team came and got the trailer. So from there, I got to keep that T2000 for, I'm going to say, about 2 months. My truck was in the shop for a while. And it wasn't any fault of the shop per se. It just, that's how trucking can go. Though there's plenty of more stories about that. And I did really enjoy the truck. It was a really pretty truck. So at some point I was able to make it back to the yard and move back into my original truck, which was a very good truck. And fortunately, I did not have another story like that for quite some time. However, I did realize I even kept a journal, like a voice diary for a while, because every day, if you're getting into this industry, every day there is something, it seems like, that can happen on the road. Whether it's just delays, you just never know what's going to happen, the stories you're going to have. And I do have a lot of stories, and as I recollect some of them, I will do a Tales from the Truck special. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this story. If you're thinking about getting into trucking, just know that that's just part of what you can expect in this industry. A whole lot of the unexpected. And if you are a driver, then I'm sure you have your own stories, and you're either laughing hysterically because you've been in something similar, or at least you have a good understanding and appreciation for what I'm saying. But here I am about 20 years later, still sticking with it, and I love it. And I do hope you guys enjoyed the story. On that note, I'm going to say, be spontaneous. Take a breath, but don't take any shit. Especially if it's covering the clothes in the truck. Don't take it. Don't take it.